Hello, my amazing algebra half students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. And today we're doing lesson 67, which is all about semicircles. And a semicircle is simply half a circle. So the arc length around a semicircle, so we're going to make a semicircle. There's a semicircle. Okay, so if we were talking about the arc length, we'd be talking about just the distance around a half a circle, like if you were going to do a perimeter. And since the entire circle is 2 pi r, 2 pi r, or remember twice r is the diameter, or pi d, that's for a whole circle. So pi d cut in half would be for a half a circle. And then our area of a circle, of a semicircle, is exactly half the area of a circle. So a circle's area is pi r squared. So a half circle's area is pi r squared divided by 2. And that is all there is to it. So here is our first example. And we have this funny shape, and we are to find the perimeter and the area. So to make it so we have enough room, I'm going to put perimeter right here. Remember, perimeter is the distance around this figure. So that's why this little thing is dashed right here. We would not count that line in the perimeter. And remember, this line right here is just showing us how long our radius is. So our radius is 5. So we're going to do the easy stuff first. So remember, perimeter is distance around. So we're going to do 10 plus 11.18 plus 15. So 10 plus 11.18 plus 15. And then we've got to add this distance. So this distance around this arc length is what we're going to call it. We're not going to call it a circumference because the circumference is all the way around the circle, but it is half of the circumference that would be this circle if this circle continued around, isn't it? So the circumference is 2 pi r, or pi d. That's the circumference of a circle, and we're only talking about a half of a circle. So we would talk about pi d over 2, which is the same thing as 2 pi r over 2. Now, because I'm just going to have to cut a diameter in half, I'm going to go with this one. They both mean the same thing, but I like to use this one for a half a circle. So the 2's are going to cancel because you've got 2 and 2 on the bottom. So we have pi r, and r is 5. So over here, we're going to add 5 pi. Okay, so remember, pi is approximately 3.14. Okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit of multiplication here to get this one ready to add in. Okay, so let's come down here and let's multiply. So let's do 3.14 times the 5 will give me an approximate for 5 pi. So 4 times 5 is 20. And 5 plus 2 is 7, and 15, and we have 2 decimal points, two decimal places. So 15.70. So we're going to erase this, and right underneath it write 15.70 is a good approximation for this 5 pi right there. Okay, let me hold my board a little bit closer. All right, so now we're ready to add 10 plus 11.12 plus 15 plus 15.70. Now remember, when we're adding decimals, we need to make sure that they're all in a nice straight column. Okay, so we're going to put 10 And the most decimal places we have is 2 decimal places. So 11.18. If I want to, I can go ahead with the 10 and put a 00, can't I? Just to make sure that everything lines up. And then 15 could be 15.00, and then 15.70. And now I'm ready to add all of those up. So in the hundredths place, I have an 8, and that's it. In the tenths place, I have 1 plus 7 is 8, and a decimal. And then in the ones place, I have a 0, 1, 5, 5, so that would be 11. And then in the tens place, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for my perimeter, I get 51.88, or 51 and 88 100ths. And that is correct. Now, since this is distance, I should put the units of measure, which in this case is meters. So 51.88 meters. So now we're going to show you the board real quickly, because a lot of that's going to have to go away so that I have room to do the area portion of this. Okay, so get your perimeter down, and then I'll clear my board and we'll do area. Okay, let's finish example 1 with our area. Now, the area, we're going to split this figure up into a triangle, a rectangle, and a semicircle. And we're going to write the area of each. Now, we know that this on the top is 10, and this length from the semicircle starting to the edge is 15. Now, doesn't it make sense to you, if this is 10 and this is 15, that this 15 could be broken up into 10 and 5? Because doesn't this length underneath the bottom of the rectangle have to be the same as the top? 10 plus 5 is the 15. So now we can split it up into its parts. So now we have a triangle. And remember, the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Okay, base times height divided by 2 is the area of a triangle. So we don't have the height right here, but do we have a way to find it? We know over here that this semicircle is using up all the space from the top to the bottom of the rectangle. And the semicircle has a radius of 5, which means the semicircle has a diameter of 10. And isn't this now, instead of a rectangle, it's a square? Because that's 10. 10, that means this has to be 10, and we have everything we need. So now we have the base of the triangle is 5. So let's take out the B for base, and we'll put 5 there. And let's take out the H for height, and let's put in the 10. Okay, so we have 50 divided by 2 is 25. So the area of this triangle is 25 square units. Now, before we saw that it was meters, so that's 25 square meters. So we'll say 25 plus, because we're adding it all up together. So now, in the middle, we have a square. We thought it was a triangle, but then we found out it is a square because all the sides are the same. So, remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width, or in this case, since it's a square, the length and the width are the same, so it's side times side, which is going to be 100 square units in there. So we'll add 100 square meters, since we know what that is. So we had 25 and we had 100 as areas, and now we have only one little section to find out, and that is going to be our half circle. Our half circle is half of the area of a circle. And the area of a circle is pi r squared. So the area of half a circle is going to be that divided by 2. So this is what I'm looking to calculate. Now my r is 5. So I can go ahead and put, instead of r squared, I can put 5 times 5, which is 25. Okay, so now I've got a little multiplication I'm going to have to do, and then a little division I'm going to have to do. So, since I'm a little bit lazy, I'm going to do them together. What if I took 25 and divided by 2? Wouldn't that be 12 and a half? And then I took the 12 and a half and multiplied it by the pi. Wouldn't I be done? I would. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. And I'm going to multiply by 3.14, which is my good approximation of pi. So I'm going to do that. But I'm going to break off and do that on another little board. Okay, this will keep our main board a little bit neater. So we're going to do our multiplication here. So we have written it out. 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 5 is 5 plus 2 is 7. 3 times 5 is 15. And now we're going to do the 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6, and now we're done with everything except for the 1. And we're just going to get a 4 and a 1 and a 3 when we multiply by 1, and we add them all up. 0, 15, 6, 7, 8, and then 12, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, and a 3, and then 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So 39.250 or 39.25 will be what we carry over to the other board. Okay, so I have carried back my 39.25, and I'm going to put my 39.25 up here in my line of things that I have to add up, and then I know that 100 plus 25 is 125. So we're trying to add 125 to this number, which I think, let's squeeze it in, 125. It's hard to get our columns lined up there, but we have 0.00. 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 0 is 2, and 9 plus 5 is 14, and I have a 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 1, and I barely squeezed it in, but I get 164.25 for the whole area. And we are done with that example and moving on to another. So I'm going to let you see the whole board so you can get anything there that you did not get when we were doing it. This was our final answer, and that is an approximate answer, because remember, anytime we put 3.14 in for pi, we are no longer exact, but it's close enough for our work here. Okay, there you go. This one looks like such fun, doesn't it? Okay, so we have 2 semicircles, and wouldn't you know, they're not the same measure. This one has a radius of 4, and this one has a radius of 5, so we have a lot of work to do. Okay, so we're going to find both the perimeter and the area of this funny figure. Okay, so maybe if we put little wheels on it, it would kind of look like a hovercraft or something, right? Or I guess it doesn't need wheels for a hovercraft. It just looks interesting, like a vehicle of some kind. But we're going to go ahead and find its perimeter and its area. So perimeter, remember, is the distance around, and the distance around is going to be, we're going to go ahead and show in red what we're talking about. So when we're talking about it, we're not talking about this part here. We're going to have this around the circle, and then across here, all the way around that semicircle, across here, and up back again. So the red is the perimeter that we are trying to measure. So now we're going to get started. So let's first look at all of our linear pieces. Lines are easy. So we have 6 here. We have 14 down here. Everything is in centimeters. Now notice we have a radius of 4. So if that radius is 4, then doesn't it mean that the diameter is 4 plus 4, or 8 across here? And the 8 and the 6 would match with the 14 down here. So all of that is good. Do we know this length over here? Since we know our circle has a radius of 5, then we do know that length here, don't we? Because if this is 5 plus 5 is the diameter of 10, then isn't this one over here a 10? Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the distance around those 2 half circles, which, remember, the distance around a whole circle is 2 pi r. So this one is going to be 2, let me get a different marker here, 2, oops, I'm going to throw out a few here, 2 pi r over 2. Okay, 2 pi r over 2, which is the circumference of a circle cut in half. So it's just pi r, isn't it? So this one will be pi r, and this r is 4. So this distance around will be 4 pi, and this distance around will, since the r is 5, this distance around will be 5 pi. Okay, so before we work on multiplying, couldn't we just add our 4 pi and our 5 pi together so that we only have to multiply by pi once instead of twice? That would be smart, wouldn't it? Okay, so let's go all the way around. Let's start here with the 6. Okay, starting at the 6, we have 6 plus 5 pi plus 14 plus 10 plus 4 pi. And then we're back to the 6 again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add our like things together. We've got a 5 pi and a 4 pi, which is a 9 pi. And then we're going to add our 10 and our 14 and our 6. 6 and 14 makes it 20. That makes it easy. 20 plus 10 is 30. So we have 30 plus 9 times pi. So on another board, I'm going to go ahead and do 9 pi for you. So I'm going to put this one down. We're going to do 9 pi, which is going to be 3.14 times 9. We'll do it on this board and then take it over to the other board. So 4 times 9 is 36. And 9 plus 3 is 12. And 27 plus 1 is 28 with 2 decimal places. So 28.26 is what I'll take over here to my other board. So here, instead of the 9 pi, we'll say 30 plus 28.26. And when I add those together, won't I just get 58.26? And that is my perimeter. So I'm going to hold that real so that you can see the perimeter calculations. And then I'll come back with a clean board. Oops, it's already clean. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so now we're going to do the area. And the area is, we're going to take it in 3 pieces. So we're going to find the area of this half circle, and then the big rectangle. Okay, so the rectangle is the easiest. We can start there. And the rectangle is going to be 14 on the length and 10 on the width. So length times width is 14 times 10, which is 140. That was easy. Okay, when we multiply by 10, we just tack on another 0, don't we? And then remember that the area of a whole circle is pi r squared. So the area of a half circle is pi r squared divided by 2. We have two different sizes here that we're going to have to calculate. So this one, since 4 is the radius, then the r squared would be 16. And like I did before, I'm going to go ahead and take the r squared and divide it by the 2, and then all I will have to do is multiply by the pi. So that's going to be 16 divided by 2, or 8 pi will be the area of this little circle. Now this little circle should be a little bit bigger, shouldn't it? Because it's a radius of 5, whereas this was a radius of 4. So again, we're going to use this formula for our area of our semicircle. 25 divided by, because that's 5 squared, is 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. So over here we'll have 12.5 pi. Now, could I get away with putting those together and then only having to multiply by pi one time? Yes, that would be smart, wouldn't it? So 8 plus 12.5 is 20.5 pi. So we're going to have the 140 plus the 20.5 pi, which I need to go and do on another board. So another board, 20.5 pi is going to be right here. 20.5 pi is 20.5 times 3.14 multiplied together. So we get to multiply once and get both semicircles at the same time, and that's smart. All right, so 5 times 4 is 20, and then I get 0 plus 2, and I get 8, and then I move down to the next one. So 5 times 1 is 5, and since it's times 1, can't I just copy it across and save myself some time? And then 5 times 3, I move down one more time, is 15. Carry a 1 this time, and 0 plus 1, and then 6. Squeeze my 6 right there. Okay, so now I wind up with 0 and 7 and 13 and 4 and 6 with 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 64.37, I'll hold that close so you can see it. 64.37 will go right here. 64.37 in place of the 20.5 pi. So now we're going to bring the 140 right below it. Remember to line up your decimals. You can stick a 0, 0 if that helps. And then we end up with a 7 and a 3 and a 4 and a 10 and a 2, 204.37. And there you have the area. So we've done the perimeter and the area of this funny looking figure, which I hope you took good notes because your practice problem looks very, very similar. Here is your practice problem, and I want you to try to do it yourself. Now this doesn't look very straight, does it? But this is a straight line coming down, and there's a right angle here and a right angle there, and then we have 8 coming across. We don't know what that is. Can you figure it out? We have half a circle with a radius of 3 and a half a circle with a radius of 2. I want you to try to find the perimeter and the area before you watch me do it. So copy it down and pause your video. Did you do it? Did you pause? Okay, hopefully you have the answers to both perimeter and area. If not, go away, do it, then come back. Here we go. We're going to do perimeter first. Now, perimeter is going to be the distance all the way around, And again, let's look in red and let's talk about this. So we're going to do the red around the semicircle. This going here, this going here, this going over here. The red around the semicircle. We're not doing anything with this little dashed line or that one, right? Those are just there to help us see the semicircle. All right, so now perimeter, distance around. We know that this one is 8. We know this is a radius 3 semicircle. So if this is 3, then this is 3. Then wouldn't this whole thing right here be 6, right underneath here? And then if 8 is on the other side, wouldn't this side here have to just be 2? Okay, now in your book, it does look a little shorter than it does in my drawing, but it is 2. All right, now we don't have anything over here, so we have to come over here to this semicircle. And we know if this is 2 and this is 2, then all the way across, the diameter is 4. So this is 4. So now we have all of our lines, and we have to worry about this and this. So remember that the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. So a half circle is 2 pi r over 2, which when we cancel the 2's is just pi r. So since this is a radius of 3, this perimeter around, or distance around, this arc length is what you really should call it. The arc length is 3 pi. And this arc length, because this over here is also pi r, is going to be 2 pi. So now let's do this a little bit easier. Let's add the 3 pi and the 2 pi together to get 5 pi. So we're going to put them all down here in a line. So we have 2 pi plus 3 pi, which we're going to add in a minute. We have the 2 and the 4 and the 8. And now I'm back to the 2 pi again. Okay, so when we add these, we've got 5 pi. And can we go ahead and add these together to get 14? So 5 pi plus 14. So I have this big space right here. Let's go ahead and get 5 pi done. So 3.14 times 5. Okay, so 4 times 5 is 20. Carry my 2. 5, 6, 7. 15. So 2 decimals, 15.70. So 15.70 plus 14. And 15 and 14 would be 29. So my answer for my distance around is 29.70. Got that one all on one board. So look at that one very carefully. That is your practice problem. Did you get the correct perimeter? I hope so. Okay, now I'm going to erase my board and we're going to do the area. But if you have not done your area, you go do it before you look at my answer. Okay, now we're doing area. And our figure is already separated into a rectangle and 2 semicircles. So that's what we're going to do. The area of the rectangle is just 4 times 8 because the area of a rectangle is length times width. So 4 times 8 is 32 plus the area of this circle. Now remember, the area of a whole circle is pi r squared. So this one is pi r squared divided by 2. And the r is 2. So 2 squared is 4. So we're going to end up with a 4 here. And a 4 divided by 2 is a 2. And 2 times pi, we'll have to figure that one out in a minute. Okay, so then we go over here. And this one is pi r squared, the area of the circle, divided in half. The r is 3. So r squared will be 9, and 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, 4.5 pi. Remember when you're doing your work on your homework that you want to be very meticulous in what you do and lay out all your work, because it's very difficult when you don't make the answer to go back and find where you made an error if you're not being very careful. Okay, so now can we add these two pi answers together and only multiply once? Okay, so 4.5 pi plus 2 pi is going to be 6.5 pi plus the 32, right? So let's go ahead and do this. So we have 3.14 times 6.5. I think I'll go do that on another board just so that I can spread it out a little bit. Okay, so this is a little bigger. So 4 times 5 is 20. I'm using 3.14 instead of my pi. 1 times 5 is 5 plus 2 is 7. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, and then we're going to do the 6. So 4 times 6 is 24. Carry your 2. 1 times 6 is 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 times 6 is 18. Add them all up. 0, 11. 8 plus 5 is 13, 14. 10, 2, 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3. 20.41. So 20.41 will come over here to my other board. 20.41 was that answer. So right here, in place of my 6.5 pi, I'm going to put 20.41. Okay, and then we're going to add 32 to it. So let's just do that up here, 32. So we can see what our answer is. So we had 0, 0 there. So 41 hundredths is still in our decimal. So then we have a 2 and a 5. 52.41. Now, I forgot. We're supposed to be putting units on these. So on your perimeter, they said that this one was in centimeters. So on your perimeter answer, you should have had centimeters. So tack that on. On this answer, since it's area, it's going to be 52.41 square centimeters. So how would we write that? Okay, so let's write our answer correctly for our homework paper. 52.41. Now there's two ways that you can write it. You can write out square centimeters, and that's fine. Or you can say 52.41 centimeters squared. They're both correct. Okay, so there is your area calculation. And that is the end of lesson 67. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.